Welcome to Turkish Series Stars. If you've just found us, tap subscribe, drop a like, and consider joining to support the channel. Your presence here fuels the stories that catch in the chest and won't let go until every layer is explored. Tonight, we step into a moment when the sheen of celebrity slipped and something startlingly human surfaced beneath the Riviera sky. The croisette gleamed like a ribbon of molten glass and flashbulbs, and the festival's famed carpet turned into a river of telephoto dreams. Out of that glare, two figures long seated in the Turkish imagination arrived together. She moved first, Cemre Arda, wrapped in a gown that drank the light and returned it as constellations scattered across dark silk. A beat behind her came Gökberk Yildirim, every line of his tuxedo honed, shoulders back, pace measured, the quiet discipline of a leading man who knows what a single frame can mean. Side by side they formed an image so perfectly cinematic you could believe a visionary had storyboarded it in secret. But no camera had pre-written this. The moment breathed with the stubborn texture of the real, which made the glitter all around seem strangely tinny. What began as a portrait of practiced unity shifted as the night unspoled. After the premieres closed and the music rose in rooms where conversations are meant to evaporate at dawn, an invitation-only gathering drew a tight circle of power and curiosity. Between scattered orchids and glasses held like props, Gökberk approached Cemre. Their first exchange was the kind of hush that gets swallowed by velvet furniture and layered laughter, two professionals reading each other's faces as if those were the only texts that mattered. But quiet can be fragile. A breath turned into a sentence, and the sentence, simple in structure yet heavy in consequence, cut clean through the room. Words overturn furniture you cannot see. They travel faster than good intentions and change the arrangement of a future in seconds. His admission did not require subtitles or a diplomatic translation. It fell into the air like a bell struck in a chapel where everyone had been pretending worship wasn't happening. Those who heard it felt the weight. Cemre, who had glided all evening with impeccable control, let the mask slip in a gesture no one could rehearse, a hand rising to her lips as if to contain the tremor, a breath that wavered, the decision to leave, not in a storm but as if stepping into a smaller, safer room inside herself. Cameras stitched her retreat into a visible storyline, and the internet, true to its nature, did what it does best, magnified, commented, and spun until the personal felt like communal currency. The aftermath was swift and impossible to outrun. A phrase of solidarity began to trend across platforms, a digital banner carried by people who wanted to protect and by others who wanted to decode. Admirers rallied, friends counseled, and analysts theorized from every angle, while a swarm of hunches and half-truths flooded timelines. In the days that followed, the two who had stood beneath that blaze chose what felt like refuge: silence. Yet silence, especially in the lives of public figures, is rarely a finish line. It is fuel for invention, an empty frame that invites strangers to paint their own versions. When Gökberk finally faced the press, he did not arrive as a man demanding applause or absolution. He asked for something softer and more difficult, a willingness to recognize the frailty that often shadows a claim. He spoke of carrying a feeling too long, of a lid that had rattled until it came loose, of an internal history that refused to stay archived. International outlets seized on every syllable, translating intimacy into headlines that could travel, turning private timing into a global commodity. Some branded his words brave. Others filed them under miscalculation, a choice that would ripple outward toward everyone within the circle of consequence. From Cemre's world the response was carefully wrapped. Friends moved like quiet guardians, choosing composure over spectacle, kindness over a flood of details. A former partner, keeping to a respectful distance, offered remarks that felt like cold embers in a room full of sparklers, not unkind, measured, and complex in how they landed. Depending on the reader, those lines became a courtesy, a veiled admonition, or a reminder that privacy, once fractured, needs repair more than judgment. The public examined that statement like a cipher, coaxing meaning from pauses, punctuation, and what was not said. What grips people is not simply a confession. Many hearts harbor declarations that never find a microphone. It is the stage where it happened and the speed with which consequence arrived. Can, a place stitched from curated perfection and world-building fantasies, turned into an accidental amphitheater for raw disclosure. The paradox refuses to fade. A festival built to honor scripts provided the setting for a live story that no one had rehearsed. That contradiction endures because it delivers a lesson as old as love and fame. Truth, delayed and inconvenient, is a guest that will not remain at the door forever. With official statements rare, the audience read gestures as if they were chapters. An image posted by Gökberk, grainy, monochrome, his gaze cut sideways, captioned with a line about how speaking and listening sometimes cannot share the same breath, became a canvas for thousands of interpretations. Cemre's quiet acknowledgments and her move toward a more secluded place felt to many like an act of self-preservation, the kind of boundary someone sets when a feeling is abruptly made public. Their separate retreats did not look like retreat at all to those willing to see it differently. They resembled a recalibration of priorities after intimacy had been turned toward an assembly hall. There are practical consequences humming beneath all the analysis. People in boardrooms watch the temperature of public opinion. Sponsors, directors, and future collaborators take notes on whether the wind favors distance or solidarity. For two of the industry's most bankable names, the story around them becomes a factor in casting, contracts, and the tone of careers built, in part, on affection from crowds. Yet even in a profession welded to image, authenticity, however inconvenient, exerts a stubborn gravity. Strategists adjust plans, yes, but friends and colleagues also search for the most humane way to stand close when feelings show through the fabric. We want to know what you see in this moment. Was Gökberk's declaration a long overdue reclamation of sincerity, or did he use an international stage to settle a private calculus that should have remained unspoken? Would another setting, away from lenses, away from a city that turns every whisper into a fresco, have led to a gentler outcome? Tell us in the comments. We read, we listen, and we bring your best insights into future episodes. Also share which Turkish celebrities you hope to hear about next. Your requests steer our chase. Before we close, a quick note from the team at Turkish Series Stars. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and hit join to sustain the work. Membership helps us produce deeper features, negotiate exclusive sit-downs, and keep the standard of storytelling you count on. If you want instant engagement, leave a comment, be it a theory, a critique, or a simple note of empathy for those passing under a merciless spotlight. Your voice doesn't just echo here, it expands the conversation. Stories that burst their seams and spill into the collective mind seldom resolve neatly. This one asks us to weigh the ethics of confession, the edges of performance, and the tender, sometimes unforgiving ways private ache becomes public tender. For a few hours in Cannes, an undressed truth stood beneath lights designed to flatter. Whether that truth becomes the first page of reconciliation or the final paragraph of a chapter is not for pundits to decree. Time will have its say, and so will the two at the center, Gökberk Yildirim, who opened a door, and Cemre Arda, who chose how and when to step through or away. If you want a follow-up that maps a precise timeline, compares the versions carried by international outlets, and measures how reaction shifted from hour to hour, let us know below. We will gather the fragments and build something clearer, without losing the vulnerability that made this moment more than a headline. Until the next chapter, take good care of yourselves, look out for one another, and remember, beyond every spotlight, someone is living a life larger than a single frame. Thank you for being with us at Turkish Series Stars. Your attention matters, your kindness matters, and your membership, if you choose it, helps us keep telling stories that reach for the human center behind the dazzle.